Recently, I got this message from someone who reached out and asked me if I had any videos on time anxiety. And while I had never heard that term before, I was immediately intrigued because it encapsulates my entire life experience in two words. So obviously, I had to go down a rabbit hole to figure out what time anxiety is. And it turns out it's a thing. So if you are someone who, from the minute your eyes pop open in the morning, you feel anxious because before you've even started your day, you know you're behind, or you constantly feel behind in life and you're not measuring up to whatever perceived passage of time you think you should be at. If any of that trash goes through your head on the regular, then you're probably dealing with what I've now learned is time anxiety, and I deal with it too. So if you're interested to hear more and you'd like to learn some strategies for getting past time anxiety, as I do, then stick around because we're going to get into it. But before we do, welcome. If you're new here, my name is Caren Magill. I'm an ADHD coach and creator, and I'm here for the busy, ambitious brains who are either chronically late or always early. But no matter what, they are ridiculously stressed and have a lot of anxiety about the passage of time. Until today, so let's get into it. Now, the first thing I want to point out is that time anxiety is a real disorder. It's considered a phobia. It's called chronophobia, and it is the fear of running out of time, but it relates more towards mortality. So it occurs a lot in folks who are older or that have a serious illness and feel like their time is running out in life. And well, I think that that is also true of a lot of folks who suffer from the brand of time anxiety that I'm talking about. This is more on a micro level. So it's the fear of constantly running late or the fear of being late and therefore you're chronically early. Or in my case, it also shows up with the fear of being late so that I'm always chronically early and overthink everything leading up to the point where I need to arrive somewhere. This is why I hate having calls, meetings, having to leave the house for an appointment of any kind. So that is the weird ass brand of time anxiety that I deal with. But let's talk about some other instances that you might relate to. Here's another article I read about time anxiety. It refers to ongoing feelings of uneasiness and even dread around the passage of time. It's not just about being busy. It's the constant internal pressure that you're falling behind, even when there's nothing urgent happening. I don't know about you, but I can absolutely relate to that. And in terms of my own experience with time anxiety, it doesn't just relate to feeling late. It also relates to this feeling of not being able to just chill, to do nothing. Like, for example, it's a Sunday afternoon. It's beautiful outside, but here I am recording videos because when it comes to the weekend, while other people are kind of, doing weekendy things, me, I'm always working. And while I do love my work, I also recognize that this is probably not the best way to spend all of my time. There's more to say about that, and it's for another video. But what I will say is that I do struggle to actually chill out and enjoy downtime, unless I'm, actively watching a show or something like that. Otherwise, like, what would I do? Just sit around, like, reading a book like a psychopath? Who does those things anymore? There's this meme floating around the internet you've probably seen that is funny, but actually not funny because it just is so on point. And it reads something like, me, I really need to relax and chill out this weekend. Also me, I wonder if there's a way that I could relax more productively. Like, that is absolutely the story of my life. And I wasn't always like this. So I don't know where my time anxiety came from, but it is definitely a big part of my life. Time anxiety for me is this feeling like I'm always sprinting towards something, but never actually arriving anywhere because I don't even know at this point what I'm sprinting for. We constantly feel like we need to rush. And that is more of a nervous system reaction because we generally mistrust our own passage and digestion of time. So we constantly feel like there's something missing or that there's something we forgot about that we're going to be late for. That happens to me all the time. Sometimes I wake up and go, because I think I'm going to be late for something, even when there's absolutely no appointments on my schedule for like 3 days. The one area that thankfully time anxiety does not show up for me is in this idea that it's too late and that I'm too old and I can't start now. Life is over. I might as well just curl up and rot away on the couch. I'm turning 55 next week, and I definitely do not feel that way. I am so excited about the work that I do. I'm excited for the trips that I'm taking. I do not feel like I am too old to do anything. And I also personally feel like that is such a useless belief because you are never younger than you are right now. So if you are thinking that you're too old to do something now, that is not something that will ever change in the future. So if there's something that you want to do, but you think you're too old, please do it. Please go out there and do it because there's nobody out there handing out permission slips for you to do the thing or not do the thing based on how old you are. Obviously, there's biological things that we probably can't do past a certain age, but beyond that, you can just do stuff in this life. Really, nobody's checking your ID. Okay, you're probably thinking, great, Caren, I now know what time anxiety is. What do I do about it? And I think, as with any transformation, the first place to start is with building awareness. Like, why do we have this time anxiety and what is it doing for us? Because generally, all human beings have behaviors because it does something for them. And when it comes to time anxiety, it gives us, in my opinion, a sense of control. If we can show up on time for something, then we feel like we have control over our day. If we can complete something on time at work, then we feel like we have control over our job. And having that sense of control is a comfort because when you think about it, we can only control our own behaviors, and sometimes we can't even control that. We can't control any of the other things that happen in life. So that sense of control over our time is, in fact, a way to almost self-soothe, which is ironic because it's also giving us anxiety at the same time. Now, in terms of tactical ways to help with time anxiety, again, I only learned this terminology last week, but I have been dealing with it my entire life, and I can share with you the things that have helped me even just a little bit. The first thing that has helped me with time anxiety and also just anxiety in general is a mantra that I picked up at least 10 years ago now when I was going through a really tough season as it related to both circumstance and time. And I remember watching Real Housewives of New Jersey, please don't judge, and Teresa Giudice at the time, her and her husband were both going to jail like separately. And they were filming the behind the scenes of this and what they were going through as they were anticipating going to jail and preparing for it. And I thought, oh my gosh, like her situation makes my situation feel like a dream problem to have. And I remember coming up with this mantra whenever I got stressed, I would say to myself, nobody's got cancer, nobody's going to jail. I don't know why I threw the cancer part in there, but that would be a horrible thing to go through as well. And when you use a mantra like that, that immediately makes your problems feel a lot smaller in the face of something that is life-threatening, it's a very grounding way to bring yourself back into the present moment. That worked for me every single time, and I still use it to this day. The other thing that I've done, and I've talked about this before and has been really effective, is to design my life around not having many appointments. In my work, the only place where I need to make appointments and show up is in my ADHD Business Hub, which is an online membership for business owners with ADHD, which I will link below if you're interested. They get some specific appointment times from me, but the rest of it is just me hanging out with them in the community, which can be done at any time. And then as it relates to things like doctor's appointments, like annual visits and things like that, I schedule them all together at the same time every year so that it happens in one quick season, and then I'm open for the rest of the seasons. Obviously, I do have other appointments here and there, but they're very, very sparse. And I find that that is probably the number one way that helps me control all my time anxiety. And then as it relates to that constant feeling like being in a rush, I've started to notice lately that some of the influences in my life, a lot of them being online, are a part of this. Now, ultimately, it is my responsibility to manage influences that are coming in, but sometimes you don't even notice it. So I'm in a mastermind with a bunch of really smart online entrepreneurs that hustle. Like they are fast and they do everything fast and they're always kind of working on something, right? And when you are amongst those people, you get a lot of momentum from them, which is good, but momentum has to have periods of rest too, which I've already mentioned is a problem for me. So if I am constantly surrounding myself with people that are always doing new things, always launching new things, always online and accessible and working all the time, I will start to emulate that level of energy before I notice I'm doing it. So I'm now at the point where I've noticed I'm rushing a lot in my job and I don't really need to do that. There's nobody pushing me to do things and I'm not on the clock to get any particular thing done. So it's taken me a minute to, first of all, notice that that's happening and then take it down a beat by actually following my own rhythm and what works for me and not necessarily doing what other people are doing because their goals might be different. I don't need to be the fastest growing ADHD coach in the world. And I feel like lately I've been running towards that goal and I never even set that for myself. As I mentioned earlier, very often it's that sense of coming into awareness that you're rushing and you're not even sure what you're rushing towards. When you finally realize that happens, then you have the ability to pause, take a step back, and remind yourself of what you're actually going after, like what's your end goal, and then take it at a pace that actually works for you. So here's the bottom line on time anxiety. If you are spending a lot of time feeling like you're behind in life, or you're always going to be late, or there's always something that needs to be done that you didn't get to, first of all, know that you're not alone. There's a lot of us that feel the same way. And at the end of the day, I think it's important to remember that time is an illusion, right? It's something that human beings made up. The fact that there's 24 hours in the day does relate to things that are happening in the solar system, but that doesn't mean that within that 24-hour period, there's a certain expectation of things that need to be done. If you're constantly feeling like you're not where other people are, then maybe it's time to stop looking outward for validation and start looking inward to really understand what it is you want and what a good pace for you would be. And let's not forget that ultimately we are all rushing towards our own demise. Like, none of us are getting out of here alive, and nobody's going to give you a hero biscuit for getting to the end of your life faster than you should have or more productively. So there's that. So I'll wrap this video up finally with two resources. The first one is a book by Dr. Libby Weaver and is called The Rushing Women's Syndrome. I read this years ago and it really hit home for me. The other book that actually just came out last month is by Chris Guillebeau, who, if I'm not mistaken, is a fellow ADHDer, and it is actually called Time Anxiety. So you'll probably want to check that one out as well. So that's what I've got for you today. If you struggle with time anxiety, please comment below and let me know what flavor yours is, because I would love to feel a little less alone in my own anxiety around time. So thanks for watching, guys. I'll see you in the next one.